Can BYU get Gonzaga tomorrow? Let's discuss that with our next guest. He used to coach BYU. Now he's an analyst here. He has great insight. His name's Steve Cleveland. He's on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline. Steve, what is up on this Friday in February? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great. How about you guys?
We're feeling good.
It's snowing outside, Coach.
It's snowing. It's no Clovis. Right?
It's not snowing in California, but it is a little chillier than it has been. So I actually spent most of the week in Park City doing a little bit of consulting, and so I saw all that snow.
Steve, BYU with a nice win against Portland. Let's talk about that, and then we'll talk about Gonzaga, big one for the Cougars. What was your biggest takeaway from last night's win at the Child Center?
You know, I think anytime you go on the road where you're expected to win, and Portland, they just recently played St. Mary's really, really tough. But I thought defensively, in the first 10 minutes when they just weren't coming down and consistently scoring, they continued to guard. And, at the end of the day, they held Portland to 40% shooting and 28 3-point, out-rebounded them by 10. And it would have been easy. I mean, they went there, they put it on them last year. I knew this would be more difficult this year just because they're a year older, they got a few new pieces. But at the end of the day, they did what they needed to do. But I think it happened at the defensive end, and it created some opportunities. And, I don't think there was ever a doubt that the game was going to be won by BYU. It was just how they were going to win it.
We were talking about this earlier in the show, Coach. Dalton Nixon is really playing well. Last night was no different. He even started the second half. Is Dalton becoming that fourth guy, that fourth scorer on the team? And do you see him maybe starting more games moving forward?
Well, he certainly is playing much better, and I think because he's healthy. And, you sat as long as he did, and certainly last night he was outstanding with, 14 points and a couple threes, rebounds, assists. We've talked about this before. The thing about him is he's an undersized guy that can play about four positions. He's got a great motor. He's got a really high basketball IQ, and you can put him in the game. And as a coach, you have confidence in those types of players. And I actually think they need him more off the bench. I don't know what will happen against Gonzaga. I mean, Worthington had probably the best game of his year against Gonzaga. So I would think they'd start big. But Dalton can play the 3, the 4, the 5. He can play the 2 through 5. And so it's a nice matchup for them. I like the way Dalton's playing. And if they're going to make some noise in this tournament, he's going to be a big part of it. And so as a coach this time of the year, you're finding those guys. And Zach Silius, he's able to score a few points the last two games. If him and Zach and McKay Cannon, if they can bring something off the bench and provide 15 to 20 points, it just makes BYU that much better.
Last night was quite the declaration from Dave Rose in terms of how big the bench is or deep the bench is right now. Played 3 guys off the bench. Dalton Nixon, 29 minutes. McKay Cannon, 20. Zach Silius, 9. Good balance, 4 guys in double figures. One of those guys, Yoeli Childs, who didn't play the last 12 minutes. That was pretty interesting to not see Yoeli Childs not play the last 12 minutes, and he wasn't in foul trouble.
Well, it could probably, things like this happen. First of all, Dalton Nixon's playing well. He needed some prime time. It could be, and I don't have any idea why, but it could be a situation where he felt like, you know what, I'm going to leave Nixon in there. Arrested Yoeli Childs is good as they prepare for Gonzaga and the tournament as well. Guys' legs and bodies are tired this time of the year. It could have been a situation where maybe he tweaked something or there's a little bit of an injury. I don't know. I didn't hear anything about that. And sometimes things happen on the bench, and you never know in terms of relationship with coaches. Something was said. It could be maybe a little bit of a discipline situation, but whatever it was, Dalton Nixon stepped up and played. And so regardless of what took place, they obviously need Yoeli Childs healthy and good and in the right mindset if they're going to beat Gonzaga.
Speaking of needing someone healthy, if there's anybody that plays well against Gonzaga, it's TJ Haws. And we saw last night, tweaked his ankle. He was able to come back, which was certainly a good sign. Not quite sure what his status will be for tomorrow. If TJ is not well or not 100%, do you play him in that game? Because in reality, BYU's locked in as the 3 seed. It doesn't change win or lose heading into Vegas.
Well, that's a decision for TJ and Rob Ramos, the trainer, and Coach Rose. And if there's any question about whether or not he should or shouldn't, I think you err on the side of don't take a risk, don't play him. Now, TJ's going to probably have a lot to say about that as well, and he's really going to be the one to tell Coach Rose and Rob, hey, listen, I'm okay. And they'll test it out today. They'll test it out before the game. But if he doesn't play, that means it's probably hurt. And but certainly if it was somewhat serious, you wouldn't want to take a chance right now, because even though you know that TJ had the best game of all the players last time at Gonzaga, I mean, he really, the last 8 or 10 minutes of that game took the game over. So I think they'll be doing everything they can to get him on the floor, because he wants to play this game. And really, for them to have a chance to beat Gonzaga, TJ needs to do the things that TJ does, and that's to attack the rim and to put pressure on the defense and knock threes down. And he's likely to do that at home and give them a great chance to win. So hopefully he's healthy. Hopefully he's okay. If it were serious, no, I wouldn't take the chance. But if it's just something that he can work through and play through, he plays.
TJ Haws averages 23 a game against Gonzaga in the three. He is a Zag killer. Hopefully he can go. We're talking to Steve Cleveland on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline. Steve, tomorrow, BYU and Gonzaga, as we've talked about, 6th ranked Zags. To me, this would be the biggest win of the season. It'd be a big confidence boost going into Vegas. What does BYU need to do tomorrow to make you more confident that the Cougars have a shot at making some kind of run in Vegas?
You know, just thinking about that, one of the first things that comes to my mind is that BYU needs to take care of the basketball. The last thing they want to do is allow Gonzaga to have easy baskets early in this game. They're already good enough to score, but what you don't want to do is give them opportunities through careless play. So I would say really take care of the ball. The game plan that they had, in fact, pretty much the game plan they've had every time they play Gonzaga, is to control the tempo and get to the free throw line and keep this game close at the end, and then make big baskets. And it worked 3 times at Gonzaga in a row, 3 years in a row, and it almost worked last time. 2 minutes to go, the game was tied. So I would say, number one, take care of the basketball. Number two, I think playing at home, the separation, and when we look back, maybe the key to this game will be if BYU went 3 for 20 from the three against Gonzaga on the road. If BYU makes 7 or 8 threes, they have a great chance to win this game. And obviously, Gonzaga is a very, very good defensive team. They've got long guards, and they're there because of the talent and because of the coaching they receive. But I just think that if BYU could knock down 6 or 7 threes, it opens the floor for Yoeli, it opens the floor for Elijah and for TJ to penetrate, and it puts more pressure on them. So taking care of the basketball there. I think defensively, I don't think there's going to be many adjustments. And those are the 2 things. I guess I throw in a third, just as you mentioned earlier, Jerem. The bench needs to participate in this game. They have to make a contribution in this game, because Gonzaga's bench is really, really good. I mean, you take Hachimura and Kispert, and they're scoring night in and night out 20 to 22 points between them, 24 points. So they've got a bench. BYU's bench really needs to play a huge role in BYU beating Gonzaga. So it'll be a great game. They are always great games. Really, Gonzaga very, very fortunate to get out of San Diego with a win. I watched that game, and they had to make big plays at the end. So it's not like there's a huge disparity of talent. There have been very competitive games between Gonzaga, St. Mary's, BYU, UOP. You know, this is not a Final Four team. It's a really, really good basketball team, but it's not the team that they had last year.
And we talked, Coach, about what a win tomorrow would mean for BYU from a confidence standpoint heading into Vegas. How real is that? How much of a confidence boost can translate to on the floor heading into a conference tournament?
Well, I just think that it allows you to breathe. and as you prepare for that tournament, the confidence that you've done it and getting over the hump. So certainly confidence and mindset are a really, really, really important part. You take talent, you take game preparation, you take effort, and all of those things are really important in terms of winning basketball games. But teams that are confident and relaxed and are ready to perform in the moment when it's needed to, that's confidence. That's chemistry and confidence that allows you to beat someone that maybe a lot of people don't think you can. So winning this game has a lot of positives. Now, if they were to lose this game, the interesting thing is that they win this game, it would be a situation where St. Mary's and Gonzaga are tied, and the RPI situation is pretty close, so it's hard to know what might happen. One of the questions you would ask yourself, no matter what happens after this game, who would we rather play in the semis? Would we rather play St. Mary's or Gonzaga? I'll tell you what the coaching staff's thinking. We don't care who we play. We want to beat Gonzaga. But if they did beat them, then there'd be a little more question about who they're going to play. If Gonzaga wins, then they know they're playing St. Mary's in the semis if they take care of business in the quarters.
Yeah, the tiebreakers will play out, and that San Francisco game would certainly play a role. Loss to BYU would play a role. So either way, if you're going to win the tournament, you got to beat 2 top 25 teams in 2 days.
Yeah, and that's not going to be easy. But I'm telling you right now that it gets a lot easier after you win the first one. It takes so much pressure off them. They're relaxed. They're confident. They're in a neutral site. And I don't care how many fans are there. You start believing. And we've had this experience. I remember our third year when we got into the tournament and beat Utah. Even though we lost in the finals of that, it was a situation that there was an experience there. Guys felt good. Vegas was better, but it carried over into the next year. And so winning a semifinal game, I think it makes things much easier. Even though you're going to have a very, very difficult opponent to play, the confidence gain for winning a semifinal game over a team, either one of those teams, is going to be considered an upset. If BYU beats St. Mary's or Gonzaga, it's an upset, and now the pressure's on the other team. That's where you want to be. And so it's just a matter of them just relax. The talent is there. The depth is there right now. Good coaching. They just got to find a way to win close games against these two teams. Once they do it, I'm telling you that you'll see things that we've probably not seen by this team. But again, a lot of it has to do with that confidence and mindset. So a win tomorrow night would be huge for BYU.
Absolutely. Steve, we appreciate the time, and we'll see plenty of you in Las Vegas coming up next week.
Yeah. See you in a few days.
Okay, Steve Cleveland on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, your values, your timeline, your financial future.